And welcome to another adventure of the energy that surrounds us. I'm your host, Michael. In tonight's show, we are starting an hour early, but it is going to be totally worth it. I am so grateful to have this team back on and having one of their newest members making her first appearance. So I feel so blessed to have that opportunity. And I'm going to stop gabbing now, and I'm going to turn it over to my awesome, amazing guests, the one, the only, the amazing Rachel and Sam.
Hey, Michael. Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming back on and for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
So I could read your guys' bios, but I don't think I can do them justice, and I think people would rather hear from you anyway. So why don't you introduce yourselves?
I guess I can go first. So I'm Rachel. I'm the co-founder of Sinister Sisters Paranormal. We are a paranormal investigation team out of Nashville, Tennessee. I'm originally from California. Came out to Nashville in 2019. But I've been into the paranormal as far back as I can remember. I had an experience when I was about 2 years old, seeing my grandfather, and that kind of like launched my whole, I guess, desire to know more, I think is the way to put it. Because I had so many questions, even at 10 years old, like what the heck is going on here? And I don't think it got any better. I think even as paranormal investigators, I think I end up having like more questions. just random crazy ones now. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'll let Sam introduce herself.
So I'm Sam. I joined Sinister Sisters, I guess, over the summer. It's been maybe like 6 or 7 months now. I'm originally from East Tennessee, Johnson City. So Tennessee most of my life. I met Rachel through the paranormal world. I'm sensitive. I've had experiences before I could talk. I freaked my parents out whenever I was a baby. So it follows me, and with Rachel's help and Sinister Sisters, I was happy to be able to join, but they also helped me kind of hone in on my gifts and kind of explore that realm a little bit more. But it's a really exciting thing, and like Rachel said, more questions the more you do it. So
it's the way it is.
I would virtually say the most interesting thing about being a paranormal investigator is we live in rabbit holes. Every time we think we figure something out, it goes deeper and deeper. It's like we got stuck in a rabbit hole and we can't find our ways out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, never ending rabbit hole.
It's fun when you get other people in your rabbit hole in the group chat. Like, what if this is?
You're like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
Mind exploded. Yeah.
And in all fairness, we were talking backstage, and I mentioned that I might have a couple of theories for you, Rachel, that might challenge some things or open minds, and one of them I will share with you right now, and then we'll get into some of your investigations you've had recently, is what if what we're seeing when we think of it being residual haunt or an intelligent haunt is another dimension?
Oh, we've had that conversation many a times.
Oh yeah.
We always like to say I think that when I talk about it with Kate all the time, we talk about like, what if we're in the movie The Others? And they're just, it's like right alongside, right? Why we say it's on the other, there's like a veil here and the veil thins, but you know, if there is this like veil like curtain and we're just in a dimension side by side. And really, she thought like if I don't blow it for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, let's just say we could be the dead ones and not even know it. Like, so really, what is alive? We've had those kinds of conversations before.
Well, and also the other part of that I was going to mention is timeline, that we're in we're watching an alternate timeline of our own making.
Right.
Yeah. I know, down that rabbit hole. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing, is like anything is possible. What did you say?
Yeah, see here, I thought I had.
True.
This is why I enjoy having you guys on, is every time I think, I'm like, yeah, it's nope, we're already on the same page.
Yep. And there's an interesting, there is a guy, his name was, he's no longer alive, but he used to be the one who ran Octagon Hall. And his name was Bear. And there's an interesting, whenever he would do investigations, and he would kind of do his little talk right before we would investigate. And he had been like, he had investigated all the way back. Like he got his start with Hans Holzer. So he, was able to go with him on paranormal investigations before they were even popular, before they were even a thing. So he had been in it for like as long as I had been alive. Like he had literally been in it for like 50 years. And he always said that whenever asked of like, does he have like the answers? And he said, no, I will never have the answers and I will never be an expert. And he said it's because like their questions just keep evolving. And, you start to, like you say, like I've said, like go down these rabbit holes of like, and you just end up with more questions because it's like, you can't, at this point in time, we can't really prove or disprove anything. I mean, we don't even know what consciousness is. At least scientists can't define what consciousness is. They think it might be housed inside the brain, but we don't know that. So it's kind of like scientists don't even know. So it's kind of like everything is fair game, right?
Right, because even consciousness, they have divided it into like 5 or 6 parts. And so it's, which consciousness are we talking about? So yeah, it is as Shakespeare would say, it is the interesting times to be alive.
That's for sure. If we are alive.
If not, then they might explain a few things, though.
Yeah. you can also say, are we living in the Matrix?
Oh, I love that topic.
Because it's like, for all intents and purposes, we are creators of our own reality, like all the time. Like we can choose, like we choose to go to work every day, but we could choose tomorrow, hey, I'm not going to work. In fact, I quit my job, or I'm going to change my job, or I'm going to move to another country, or I'm going to learn how to fly a plane, or like everything is like, we could do anything we want. So I think Like, that's why anything can be possible. That's why I believe in magic. Like, because I think we really can. I think people have shown time and time again that they can manifest. So, you know, I know at some point I was like, I'm going to have a Tesla. You know, it's my dream car. And guess what? I have a Tesla. Made that happen about a year ago, you know, or so. Maybe it's been a little over that, but you know, it was.
Did you get all the batteries though?
Oh yeah, it's got all the batteries.
Well, no, I was told when Tesla first came out that there was 3 main batteries, but they only sold it with 1 activated. You had to pay to activate the other 2. And so I was like, I don't know if that's still reality or if they've changed that. So that's what I was meaning when I asked you if you got all the batteries or the basic one.
I know that they say that there's multiple that run different systems of the car. So I would believe then that they're utilizing whatever batteries are in there. Let's just say hope.
And how many times have you freaked people out using the self-driving?
I don't think I haven't used the self-driving that much. I mean, you have to pay to continue to use it. They give you a demo of it for like, I think it was like 3 months. And then if you want to continue to have it, you have to pay like a subscription. And I think it's like $100 every month. And I'm like, do I use it that often? No.
I don't know. Coming back from an investigation.
Huh?
Coming back from investigation in the wee hours of the morning might be nice to flick it on.
Yeah, but you're supposed to remain like able to take over the car in an emergency. So, you know, I unfortunately know people who have had their Tesla and like driven drunk with it and let it drive it home. And I'm like, oh dear God.
No. I don't think I'd be able to relax enough to let it do its thing. I'd be like just worried the whole time.
It's weird. It's weird. Like when it does, like, because you're like automatically want to like control it.
Yeah. That's how you learned how to, you learned how to drive. You didn't learn how to let your car drive you, you know? So it's different concept.
I know.
Yeah. I'm like laughing in my head when you make the comment, you have to be there to take over in an emergency and going, isn't Tesla, though, supposed to be designed to avoid the emergency? So
yeah, but you never know like what's going to pop up in front of you. It's not going to design to prevent you from hitting a deer.
Right.
Well, that's true.
You know, so somebody walks out in front of the car. Yes, the car is supposed to recognize that there are people because it has all the cameras, like 360 degrees of cameras, which we've taken into a graveyard, by the way. I have interesting stories about that, but because it essentially has an SLS camera. Those were all the cameras because it picks up everything around you. You can see on the computer screen where if there's a person crossing a crosswalk, it has like an image of a little stick figure kind of guy crossing the crosswalk in front of you. If there's a bicyclist, it's got a bicyclist. There's a motorcyclist and a motorcyclist. There's a truck in front of you. It like knows all of those things. But what's interesting in a graveyard is that it picks up people when there's no people there.
I remember seeing those videos of yours.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple of them at different times. And then my husband's like, it's picking up a gravestone. And I'm like, if it's picking up a gravestone, why wouldn't it be picking up all of these gravestones?
Exactly.
And sometimes it's picked up even like a horse when there's no horses there. So we were in Lebanon and we went to the cemetery in Lebanon. And, you know, it's like there's like a side of the cemetery that's like an old cemetery with older gravestones. But then across the street, there's like a newer cemetery and it has a lot of military gravestones, but there's part of it that's like an open field. And in that open field, it was mapping out horses when there was no horses there. So I'm like, what the heck is that about? And it's not even mapped out like a dog. And I'm just like, there's no dog there. I'm like, what is happening? What is this picking up? So I don't know.
I can start to see when paranormal investigations get more popular and more mainstream that Tesla's going to advertise themselves as the paranormal vehicle.
Oh yeah.
They should. They should show all of that.
Yeah. So Nancy actually asked a question I just seen in our earlier conversation about the timelines and the alternate universes, and saying, are they coming into our area or are we going into theirs?
I think honestly we're bleeding into one another's at that point in time. So it's kind of like which I think this is the fascinating way to put it, if I can do it justice. But there was this guest we had on. He is actually MUFON. He works for MUFON part-time and doing their video analysis, but he's an astronomer and his name is Mark D'Antonio. If you've ever heard of him. We had him on the show. I asked him the question about, because there was a lot of similarities between like UFOs and paranormal with ghosts and cryptids even. But he said what the way that scientists is looking at it is if there's like, for example, like a sheet of paper, and all of a sudden there's like another sheet of paper and you intersect here, at this point where it was intersecting is where we pick up on each other. So I thought I was like, if they're actually like, he's actually thought about that and other scientists are thinking about that, then like, that's something like that's what we need more of. And I think that part of that lies in the quantum realm when we start to look at those things. But
yeah, so many things when we start going into quantum, it's like, it seems so big because of the word quantum and what that means. And it's like, I find a lot of times it's more common sense and more simple. But because we put the word quantum in front of it or in the term, that people are like, oh, it's the science of the future. Yes, that's our future. That makes so much sense. It's like, we've been saying it for years, but now that we put the word quantum, everyone's agreeing with us.
Right. Yeah, that's what I know. One of the interesting things is quantum entanglement. So that's when they have they have like two particles, right? And they could be, one here in the US and one across the other side of the globe. But when one acts, the other acts in response, like they're entangled together. So I wonder if that can have something to do with it. Maybe there's some particles over on the other side, and then, what if they're, we have the same, like they have particles this side, we have particles that side, and we're entangled. So we end up responding to each other.
And it would make sense, the quantum entanglement, actually, even if it's us, if we're on both timelines, we would be entangled because we're one being, but living two different timelines at the same time. And I don't know if you both had heard, but Russia back in, I think it was the 70s or 80s, proved quantum entanglement through an experiment with plant life. They had two identical plants in a building on separate corners of the building. Like, they were not even in eyesight of each other, if plants could see like we see. But they would put a lighter underneath the leaf, and they would measure the plant that's got the leaf being burned reacting, but the other plant would be reacting as well on the other side of the building at the same time.
Yeah.
So they were like, how are these plants talking and experiencing the same thing on different ends of the building out of sight?
Right.
Energy. Everything has energy, and plants. I mean, all my plants. I believe they can communicate. I think I can communicate with them. So yeah, I mean, it's a really cool theory. It's a really cool thing.
Well, they have. I know science has done experiments with plants where they've, just like they've done with water, where if you talk positively, they tend to like bloom more and grow. And if you talk negatively, they do the opposite. And the same with, like, there was a famous study with water crystals that they said, like, in an experiment of showing of like them having positive words like associated like on the container of whatever the water is in. And if it had like a positive word, the crystals that came out of it were so beautiful. And then if it had an ugly word like hate or, just something very mean, it would be the ugliest. So it's like, again, like you said, everything has energy. Or like the title of the show, the energy surrounds us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And on that note,
yes.
I'm going to turn it over to Sam, because Sam has not had a chance yet to really share, like, where did your gifts come from and your kind of origin story.
So I've been sensitive since I was, a baby, literally. I don't really know. I think I know where they came from. I think it's like passed down generationally. But I was seeing things, hearing things, talking to things when I was a kid that my parents could not see. They were a little freaked out. And it kind of went away for just a little bit whenever I was a teenager. And it came back pretty full force after my grandmother, who also was sensitive and would tell me her stories. It came back full force once she passed. And I kind of was just like, well, maybe I just have something following me, or maybe, whatever. I tried to explain it away, and recently, within the last probably 5 or 10 years, I've moved several times, and everywhere I've lived, it's just been, okay, here's an experience here, and it's, for me, it never felt negative. Like, it was always like a protector. So I always just thought it was my grandmother. But, with Sinister Sisters and this whole new journey, I'm finding out that spirits are attracted to my energy and they feel safe with me, which is comforting, but there's always going to be the negative that you're a little bit like hesitant of. But that's pretty much my story. I do think it came from my grandmother. She had prophetic dreams, and I also have prophetic dreams that freak me out whenever they happen, but it's still like, I still think it's really cool. It's never going to get old. So
No, probably won't ever get old, and that is really cool. And one thing I know is, talking about investigations, and I know you guys have a lot of them, but there was one that you guys were talking about earlier today. I think it was on Facebook on a post. And when I mentioned it, you guys were like, oh yeah, we have stories. So do you want to,
sure.
Since it is Halloween time, do you want to jump into those?
Yeah, we can do that. Are you talking about when you did the human pendulum? I think that was probably it on the one post.
It probably was. It was, Sam was doing some live talking, so to speak, on film.
Yeah. Do you want me to kind of take it?
Yeah, you can go.
Okay. So kind of what I talked about in that video, we went to a place called Trousdale, which is one of the historic homes in Gallatin, which is a little town in Middle Tennessee. Um, it was my first time at this location. It was one of my very first investigations, and I'm always down to try anything. I'm like, let's try this. Let's see what happens. Learned my lesson that night, but we tried out human pendulum. And for those who don't know what human pendulum is, if you are familiar with like the stone pendulum on a chain or like a necklace, you find your answer yes or no. You can ask questions and you get your answers. If it's yes is back and forth, no is a circle, however you want to do it. Human pendulum is when you act as that little stone or that little pendulum, and you'll have 4 people around you, front, back, left, right, to kind of not only help you not fall forward, but to really, like, you know, you're in a circle, so you're opening the circle for spirits to come and communicate. So I was the pendulum the first time, and then Rachel stepped in after me. And you kind of just, you want to zone out so that way you're not influencing any kind of answers. So you don't ask the questions. The pendulum will not ask questions. They will just zone out and let energy flow through their body, which apparently Rachel and I are really good at. So, yeah, definitely. Again, that's where I said I learned my lesson that night. So we're doing it up in like a children's room. I'm standing in the middle. I'm the pendulum. I'm staring up at the ceiling and just trying to zone out, and they're asking their questions. And so you find your yes or no. So yes for me was moving front to back, or no, yes for me was moving forward. No was for me to move backwards. So, you know, we were getting all these answers, and at first we thought it was a woman who was maybe like a mom, or, you know, we didn't really know who we were talking to, but it presented itself as, I'm a female, I need help, I need to give you a message, all of the stuff. And then it just shifted. Like I was like feeling myself like almost like being pushed and pulled at the same time. Like it just felt different. And I said, guys, this isn't who we think we're talking to. This is not a woman. This feels negative. We need to stop. And so we closed the circle, we thought, and I stepped out. I kind of took a breath, and Rachel was like, let's try it. So Rachel went in there and also had a pretty, I don't know if you want to talk about your experience.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty similar to Sam's in the way that I think he stepped in there, and you do that little kind of like try to center on like almost meditative state. And it's a very weird feeling to really feel like things like pushing or pulling you back. I think the pulling back part was like, yeah, it was really jarring more than like the pushing forward. But yeah, I think we started doing asking similar questions, you know, asking who's there, if they had something they wanted to convey or say. And it seemed like we were getting like that same energy that came through with Sam was coming through with me. And I think that the others around us kind of recognized that too, and was like, oh, no, we're shutting it down right now. You're done. Yeah. Get out. And I think, I mean, after that, I think several of us started to not feel good. I think it was immediate with you, Sam. And then, I know that Justin tried to get the energy off of us.
Yeah.
You had to step outside, right?
Yeah, I felt like my blood sugar dropped. Like it was like, I felt like I was going to pass out. I felt like I was going to throw up. Like it was bad. So Justin and Greg, who are our psychics, they both I mean, we went outside, we took our shoes and socks off, we were one with the grass, and we just tried to ground ourselves. But the craziest thing that happened that night after the fact, we thought that, everybody went outside, everybody grounded. We thought it was done. We told the spirit, you're not allowed to be near us. You're not allowed to attach. We do our protection. I'm from Gallatin. Like I used to live in Gallatin. That was the first place in Middle Tennessee that I lived. And I'm very familiar with this grid of downtown. It's all little squares. You can get back to the main road by going straight, right? So I put my GPS on I live in Nashville now and, traffic. So I just wanted to see, anyway, I put my GPS on and it rerouted me twice. And each time it made me go back to the house. And the weirdest thing is I was so confused on where I was. I was almost like discombobulated. I was just like, where am I? I don't know how to get to the main road. And that's not like me. I know Gallatin, so twice it took me back to the house. And I think that is when it attached itself to me, when I was coming back to the house. I ended up seeing an energy healer next week, which was crazy because I already had this appointment and this lady knew nothing about me. It was just like a first appointment, just trying to see what was going on with my body and my energy. And she did a little scan and she stopped right over my stomach and she said, oh, I was like, what's that? She said, there is something nefarious on you and we need to get rid of it. And I was like, do it, please. And I was sick. I didn't feel good. I called out of work that day. I did not feel good. As soon as she was done with me, I was fine. So it didn't know.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was.
I think we have since learned that, if you're someone that opens up, more to the energies, that you really have to know ways to protect yourself, even more than like even just the typical, how people can, like maybe just a normal person who's not really as open, they may be able to use, oils or stones or, say their, whatever prayer they like, and nothing happened to them, right? Because they're already blocked at some point in some space. But for us that are more open, it's harder for us to put those blocks up. We are, like she was saying, we are like a beacon to energies out there that want to communicate with, the physical side of things. And so, we've learned that it's probably not good for us to be in those positions of like doing human pendulum or something like the Estes method, because you're very much the conduit for these energies to speak through.
Yeah. So Estes method. I don't know. There was something else that happened that night. I don't know if you want me to go ahead and share a little bit about that with me.
Let's go for it.
Okay. So that same place, I tried Estes method. I think it was my second time ever doing that. And you could hear, there was like a protector of the house kind of energy, and his name was Albert, and he kept coming through. We all, like, spiritually and through our apps, we were getting Albert, and I was doing Estes. I was sitting there, they were asking their questions, and I just remember like hearing my name, like it was like Sam, Samantha, Sam. And I remember feeling footsteps all around my chair to the point where I was like, are you guys, because I'm blindfolded, I was like, are you guys up and moving around my chair? And then I feel my chair get pulled backwards. And I was like, okay, what's happening? Like I felt it like scoot against the floor. And I was like, okay. But there's Albert, and then there was that spirit that wanted me. He wanted my energy. He wanted to attach. And I don't remember a lot of the responses. I just remember saying my name a lot. But Rachel and Jen both told me when they were watching the tapes back and listening to the audio, you could hear Albert and this negative spirit almost fighting over me.
Yeah.
So it was just such a cool, on my nerdy side, it's pretty cool, but personally, from my own energy, pretty scary stuff. So I'm not going back to Charleston.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I was talking with a girl who I guess has helped it, maybe volunteered at Trousdale.
Mm-hmm.
And her experiences over there too is that she felt like that because it's in like they were getting energies from the cemetery and getting energies from the prison there, that this spot was like sort of a magnet for these energies. So,
Yeah.
she feels like uncomfortable going over there.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
It's validating. So,
Yeah.
So Nancy has a question for you guys.
Yes.
With the Estes and the human pendulum she says, doesn't that open you to who knows what?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's why for, like I was saying, as for like myself or Sam, who are more open, then, we're going to shy away from future doing those kind of investigative tactics just because, we don't have those traditional blocks up because we are more sensitive.
One thing you might try is, because when I did the human pendulum, and I'm a beacon as well, is I found that when we had intention of who we were wanting to connect with, it was harder for other things to come in because the energy that we were intending to communicate with was kind of like, hey, they're wanting me. This is my turn. Y'all need to back off. This is my space. And the other thing that I'm wondering if both of you experience when you're doing the human pendulum is, like you were saying, you lean forward for yes or you lean back for no. And if you ever tried to answer for them, they would not allow it. You would automatically, if you're trying to say no, and they're like, no, it's a yes, you would be pushed forward even more. They're like, you are not answering for us.
Exactly. I think that's a really human thing to do because it's almost like you're anticipating what the energy is going to say. So you're like, well, I guess I'll just start to shift my weight, and then it's like, nope, actually, we meant this. But yeah, I think Rachel and I both kind of fell forward and backwards a few times because we were pushed so hard. But yeah, that was definitely.
Jen was like, don't worry, I got you. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, naturally, yeah, we're not going to be doing that again.
No, that was a one and done thing for me. So.
Yeah. I don't blame you. One thing that I admire from both of y'all, talking about this, and yes, my Southern is coming out for some reason tonight.
I'm from East Tennessee. It is fine.
But I think it's great how you're modeling, saying, we're not going to do this method because of this. Where a lot of paranormal investigators will go out there and say, well, yes, this happens, but I'm a paranormal investigator. That's what I'm looking for to happen, and so they're gonna let it happen, and they don't put their safety first.
Exactly.
So I think it's really great that both of you are in turn saying, our personal safety is more important than getting that evidence. So not going to do it.
I mean, we'll get our evidence, but in different ways.
Right.
Like, there's so many other ways that you can capture evidence that's probably more valuable than that, right? Because that kind of stuff is almost based on the experiencer having that experience, right? It's not about like evidence you can document, per se.
Right.
Versus like if you get something on video or you get something on thermal or you get something on your digital, audio recorders upon playback, that kind of thing is a little bit more data that you can count on versus somebody's experience. Now, if you have like, you may have some of that and the experiences, well, that helps kind of validate what you're feeling.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that we're not just limited to having to do those kind of things.
I think it's, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Sam.
I was going to say, we always say it's about the energy that you bring to the investigations as well. What your intention is, what your goals are. And I think all four of us, all four sisters, we're all very aligned and we're very respectful whenever we go into these things. We know that we're kind of entering their space. And I feel like we have really good energy anyway, like going into things. So between being like a lighthouse for spirits and, we all have this good energy going into it, we get a lot of really good responses, whether it's, a spiritual communication or a message that Rachel and I get, or, the spirit talker or whatever it is, we get confirmation for a lot of what we're asking for. So it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's been our biggest thing. Like we said, when Jen and I first started the group, it was like, we've been a part of different teams and investigations, and you kind of, hone what works for you. And what we've noticed is that it definitely has to do with who you investigate with, and what those people's energies and your collective energy brings to the table, right? Because we always walk into a location and we're always like, we're here for positive communication. We just want to hear your stories. We're not trying to, instigate or disrespect you in any way, shape, or form. And, communicate with us if you want, but it's going to be, only, kind of energies that belong to the light,
Yes.
And so, up until that point of doing like human pendulum, we've always had like very positive communications. So that's why we're kind of like, well, we strayed from our
we tried it
and we broke out of our comfort zone. We saw what happened, but we learned, and that's all you can do.
Yeah, that's the important thing, is learning and evolving. And, it may just be too that, that just wasn't the right technique, so to speak, for that location. And next location, you'll probably be back to normal, like, oh, we're getting positive on the human pendulum again. So that's just a no human pendulum zone at that house.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do it at a place where we feel comfortable, maybe, potentially, but right now we're on a kind of scale.
we put the kibosh on it for now.
No, that's something that I think a lot of investigators, old and new, really need to understand is things that have always been done aren't necessarily always to be done. And things that worked in the past or worked recent may not work everywhere. So you have to be flexible and don't rely on just one thing.
Exactly. You have to have your boundaries. Go ahead, sorry.
This too is like, know your limits, right?
Yes.
And we always tell other investigators that may be, guesting in or coming with us on an investigation, we'll always tell them, if you for some reason you don't feel right, you don't feel safe, leave the space. Like, we're not going to think anything about you. You know you, right? And you know your limits. And I think that's important. Like, when investigating, especially, I think that everybody should know what their limits are. And if you're not feeling quite like yourself, we've seen it. We saw it with a friend of ours that at Brushy.
Yeah.
And we saw something take her over, and she literally was not there. She was just standing frozen in this hallway. And I was like, hello. I was like, Sheila. And I wasn't getting any response. And I could see that her eyes didn't look like her. Like, her face almost didn't look like her.
Right.
And so that's when we were luckily we had two kind of Reiki masters with us that I was like, okay, bring on the Reiki masters, like help get this thing out of her, and they were able to do it, but it took them quite a bit to get her to come back. And when she did, she had no recollection of what happened. She was like there one minute, gone the next. And, it was just, it's definitely, that's like, we were like, okay, maybe you need to, maybe you need to go outside and stay outside for a while, because that's the other thing that calls into question. Like, you have to, like, if you're going through something personally, like, you might be going through something at home, like maybe it's not the right time to go on an investigation, because you need to be in the right mindset to like investigate. If you're in a place where you're just like, unsettled for some reason, like, your mind's not really focused in there and present, then, you could end up inviting something that is attracted to that, right? Because like. And so if you're not that positive and focused and intentional present mindset going into a location, then especially somewhere like Brushy Mountain.
Oh yeah.
Notorious for having, darker energy because of what the place is.
Right.
It's definitely a mixed bag of energy. I wouldn't say it's all negative, but there's a lot that's happened on that land even before the prison was there. So I think all of that kind of like, you need to just be
you need to be protecting your energy as much as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
And here's an interesting question / theory for both of you. Is there's talks of like spirits are who they are when they were in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So if, like you're saying, Brushy being a prison, there's hierarchies.
Yep.
So as the spirits, the hierarchies, would they still be there and still be as prevalent, or would other spirits be like, hey, wait a minute, you're no longer the top dog, we're the top dog because we now know we can do this and you can't?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's talked about, right? I think that's a definite theory out there, that there are these definite spirits, and if you're negative in life, then you're negative, on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
not going to change its spots too much. It's not like all of a sudden you're going to be a positive. I mean, I think everything in this universe is both dark and light. There is a balance in the universe, yin and yang, right? That I think to know the light, you have to know the dark. And so, and vice versa. So if there's positive energies out there, there's negative energies out there. Do I necessarily mean it's a demon? No, I don't think that is necessarily the case. We've never encountered anything that's been like we would go to the realm of saying demonic. Is there a negative spirit, negative energy, as we can call it? Yeah, we have encountered something like that, but I think it's very few and far between compared to the positive. And again, that might be because we're walking in saying positive, like attracts like, positive attracts positive, right?
Right.
So here's an interesting theory, and this is one of those that I mentioned earlier. This is the second part of it. When you walk into a location and you see like shadow beings, or you feel an entity that you're just not able to feel like really belongs to this location, do you think there's a possibility you might be actually having like a first encounter with an alien race that may be using this experience to try and see what would first contact really be like? Would we run and scream from them, or would we stand our ground to them or talk with them?
That's really an interesting theory. I know like that people have talked about like shadow beings, shadow figures. A lot of people think that they're more like paranormal, but a lot of people also think that they could be something different, that they could maybe be like a whole category in themselves, that maybe they're presenting to us in that being void of all light. Because you hear of like beings that are nothing but light. So could there be beings that are nothing but dark, that were never, physically human beings, and might be something else, might be something, alien. We don't know. I mean, they definitely like a category all in themselves.
Yeah, because shadows, it's interesting because we talk about shadow beings or shadows, and if you go on the astral or ethereal plane, there are shadow zones. So it's like, are these shadows from the shadow zones? And the interesting thing about the shadow zones is, as much as we're talking about having the right frame of mind in the going on these paranormal investigations, if you don't have the right mind and you step into a shadow zone, you can be stuck there as well. They will suck actually the life force off of you. And so that's kind of why they're actually, I think, called shadow zones, is for that reason. It's void of life and void of light as we know it. And so could that be where they're coming from here on our planet? Who's to say yes or no? We don't know.
Yeah. Again, that's taking a deep dive into that that rabbit hole for sure. It's that, like you say, it is, anything's possible because we just don't have the answers yet.
Yeah. So what is the wildest unexplained phenomenon you both have come across in your years of investigating or before?
Wildest.
I was going to say my personal, but I think the one that is cool that we experienced together is probably the whistle. I don't know if that's what you were thinking.
Still at the one at Trousdale?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting because it was so audibly loud that every single person there heard it and thought it was one of us. We were kind of at the end of the night of investigating at that location, and they kind of there's like the main house, but then there's sort of an annex that's off to the side of it. And that's kind of where we kept like our equipment. So it was like home base, and we would go back there. It's where it had all of our snacks, which are the important things. And, and so we went back towards the end of the night, and we're like, okay, well, we didn't really get to investigate in this spot. Let's just have some snacks and, kind of just chat. And we laid out some equipment, and, we were all just basically talking. And all of a sudden, like, we hear this like loud whistle. I thought it sounded like it was right next to me. I thought it was my husband. And I was like, did you just whistle? And he was like, no, I think he thought it was you, right? Or yeah, he thought
me or whoever was beside me.
Yeah, I think it was either you or Justin or something. He thought, and you guys, it was like, it's not me, we heard it too, and everybody was like, oh my God, that was so loud that we thought that was somebody else. So that was pretty crazy. But I think the other one that I had was at Harriman Hospital, where it was the craziest, probably disembodied voice that I've heard. It was so loud, so clear that it was just it definitely startled all of us, because we were not expecting it at all. And I think I do have it still, like, on my Instagram page, but it's a very short clip of it. But essentially, we had one of the investigators was lying in this hospital bed, and she was doing Estes method. So she had the blindfold on and the noise canceling headphones. And then I was with her partner at the time, who we were talking. She and I were having a conversation, because we were feeling like, because we were both kind of sensitive. She's definitely more so, maybe a little bit more developed than I am. But she was saying, because she had done Estes before, and she was saying, yeah, I felt like there was this doctor here. And I said, yeah, it really feels like we are in the midst of, like, them trying to work on patients here. Like, I really feel like we're in the way, and they're not happy. And she was like, oh yeah, there's definitely this doctor here who was coming through with me in Estes methods, very gruffly saying, like, get out of here, like, you're in our way. We're just trying to work and take care of the patients. And, so as we were discussing that, all of a sudden you hear the disembodied voice, and it says, I see you. And it's this male voice, and all of us in the room at the time are female, and we're the only ones in that side of the building. The other investigators there were clear on the other side of the building, because we radioed them and we're like, where are you? And they're like, we're over in radiology, which was clear on the other side of the building. And they're like, what happened? And, so we're like, meet us at, the home base area, because we've got something to show you. So, but we, at the same time that the voice came, every piece of equipment was going off in the room. Like, the tripwire was flashing, the REM pod was going off, and it literally sounded like this voice was right in my ear. And Sheila was sitting over at the nurse's station, and she said she heard it in her ear as just as loud. And at the time when we heard it, Alicia grabbed my hand, and she pulled me on top of Beverly, who was doing the Estes method, and Beverly screamed because she didn't know what was happening. Alicia thought she was saving her friend, because she thought that voice came out of her. And she had no idea what was going on. And so it was just this whole wild thing. And then when we got downstairs and we showed it to the one lady who was kind of there at the hospital that night to kind of be the one who lets you in, she kind of works for the owner. And she actually was a patient at one point in time at the hospital. But now that she's a volunteer and works there, she said whenever she comes in, she always tells them, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm just here filling in for the janitor, and I'm here working tonight with y'all. So she said, I always tell them, like, that I'm here, like, either she says I'm a fill-in nurse, or I'm just a janitor, but she tells them that she's also working too. But she heard the video and she was like, oh yeah, that happens all the time. And I'm like, oh God, because that was that. And we really got to thinking about because we replayed it over and over and over again. And we're like, and I got to thinking, like I said, well, maybe it's not saying like it can see us. Maybe it's saying ICU, intensive care unit.
Oh, that's true.
That would make sense because we were in a spot of the hospital, that room that we were in. I think they called it the CCN, like the continuation care unit. So after it was like a step down unit, after somebody was in the ICU, they would come into that unit. But it may have not have always been. It could have been an ICU at one point in time. So we were like, oh my God, that makes total sense now. You know, maybe it was telling, but we were feeling what it was saying. Like, you're in the intensive care unit, like, get out of the way. Stop investigating in here. I'm trying to do my job, you know, and that's where it is like they're on just a coexisting, you know, timeline, just on a different part of it than we are, right? And they're still going about their business, and you know, we're just trying to, you know, be in that also reminds me of Rosemont, where there was a full sentence at this historic home that we investigated like a number of times. One of our team members, she's the executive director of that property. And so we were inside what is like the judge's office. And we were just doing our normal investigating, asking questions, We had, you know, digital recorders going. And it wasn't until upon evidence review that my husband and I heard, like on the digital recorder, like a full sentence come from a gentleman's voice that said, "The children want quiet." It was like point blank, stop messing around. Like, the children just want quiet, you know? So it's kind of like they know we were there, and we're like interrupting like whatever is happening. And they're like, hey, get the heck out of here. Like, we're just trying to live our lives, whatever, over on this side. Like, the timeline still exists for them. So it's kind of.
I actually had a crazy thought for you about your experience at Harriman.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was on the bed, her eyes covered, and was like non-responsive to things. Could the doctor have thought she needed to go to ICU because she was being unresponsive? And so he was trying to take care of her.
Yeah, it very well could be. And he's like, get the heck out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because that is exactly what we were feeling. Both of us were feeling that in the moment, like, just get out of the way. We're trying to take care of patients. That's all that kept, like, that's all the feeling that I was feeling. Like, there was movement of, you know, the hustle and bustle of a working hospital was still happening. And like, we were just in the middle of this, and they're like, can you move? Get out of here. Like, we're just like, ooh, look at the lights light up. And you know.
Yeah. So we're a little bit over the hour. Do you have time to cover another topic, or do you guys need to call it a night?
I have like a few more minutes.
Yeah. A few more minutes.
Like, cover.
So there is one topic that Rachel and I had talked about, and we brought up on a previous episode. And so I was like, with it being Halloween, why not? And that is your UFO experience.
Well, I haven't had my personal UFO experience, but, you know, I mean, well, I guess I could say that there was something that here in Nashville that my husband like noticed first out in the backyard when he was like taking the dog out to go to the bathroom. You know, he was like nighttime, and he looks up at the stars, you know, when he's out there, and he was like, hey, come look at this light, you know. And I was like, where, and I come out there and I look and I'm like, it was very strange. I don't know if I could even describe what it was like. I did record part of it. I got like a small part of it before it kind of like disappeared to where I couldn't find it. Like it went over to the other side of the house, and I went out in the front yard to see if I could find it, and I couldn't find it out there. So it kind of just disappeared, but it was kind of like pulsating, if that's a way to describe it, with like different colors. It was almost like it had its own, maybe like it was emitting its own light in a way. That's the only way I can describe it. I've never seen anything like it before or after. So that's probably my one UFO story, but
No, that's actually really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Well,
haven't been abducted or anything like that I know of.
yeah, that you know of.
Exactly. That's
No,
what Thom would say, that you know of.
I had one. I had just finished. I think it was either haunted house or an investigation, because they were both in the same location. And I was standing at my car, and the owner's, or the caretaker's husband, comes over, and he comes out of the building. And the second before he comes through the doors, I see a light that's like here, drops down towards my car, and then blitzed off at an angle. And I was like, that was a freaking UFO. I'm like, there's no plane, no drone, no nothing that can move
They move
like
like
that.
that. Yeah. I mean, a human being, it would crush us. It'd turn us to like Jello immediately.
Yeah. And
That's the thing with some of those, like there's no way a human body could withstand the gravitational forces and like speed that some of those go, like some of the maneuvers. Like there's no way. We've seen it on those TikTok videos and stuff that the military has caught, that they're just like, there's no way that that humans could be in there. We don't have the technology to protect us from, getting crushed to death.
well, not only that, but what I find most interesting is, you take a room full of people and not everybody will see it. And what's interesting is a lot of my experiences where I'm looking at it, and if I go to get somebody who's a like skeptic or a non-believer and being like, hey, look, describe this to me. Well, what are we looking at? They disappear. But if it's someone who is like a believer or is like, there's a possibility, it's like they kind of hang around a little bit and then disappear. So it's like that's how I think they're getting away with being so unidentified, is they only show themselves to certain people.
Yeah. There's a lot that is in the community that talks about just that a lot of like UFO experiencers experience them multiple times throughout their life. It's like they know where they are and who they are. It's like almost like they're tracking them, or like there is some sort of communication somehow that's telepathic. And some of those, I mean, I think a good example is Whitley Strieber, if you know who he is. But he was the author who wrote the book Communion,
Right.
about his experience kind of up in, I guess that's upstate New York, where he got abducted like for the first time. And it probably, he realized that later it was almost like happening, when he was a kid and didn't know it. Like it wasn't until his adulthood that he found out that he was being abducted. But he says now he communes with them, at 3:00 every morning. He'll get up and he just goes into meditation and he speaks to them. Yeah. So there's this one guy who is Thom Reed's friend, who is also, he's on Ancient Aliens a lot. His name is Mike Barra. You've ever heard of him? He talks about the instance where he met Whitley Strieber. They were both going to speak at a conference together. So they're in the same hotel. And he said he went to go meet him one morning, like for breakfast. They were going to have breakfast. And he goes, I wasn't sleeping well. Like Mike said, I wasn't sleeping well the night before, and I woke up because he's like, I got this, like, all of a sudden, like a slap on the back of my chest, back of my back. And it woke me up at like 3 a.m. And he was like, it scared the crap out of me. There was nobody there. Like, I didn't understand what that was about. And so he's telling Whitley Strieber this. Whitley says, well, I commune with, the aliens at 3:00 every morning. And he goes, what hotel room are you staying at? And he goes, like, something like, I'm in room 209. And Mike goes, oh my God, I'm in the room right next to you. He was like, and I didn't know it. He said the alien was probably slapping me on the back and then going to visit with you.
Oh, it's like, wake up, Whitley. Oh wait, wrong room. Sorry.
I know. But if you end up knowing Mike, you might slap him too. But
No, I actually met Whitley in Tennessee, of all places. He was doing a conference there with William Henry and
both on Ancient.
Her name's escaping me right now. Earth Files, Crop Circles.
How?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, Linda Moulton Howe. That was an experience, and I got to meet Ann.
No, you are one of those. I know too many things about the UFO world.
Yeah, and we were fortunate to meet Ann before her passing, so that was kind of a treat. We just didn't know. We met her and talked with her, and then we're like, found out later what happened, and we're like, oh, well, at least we got to meet her.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing when you meet up with a lot of people and you realize in hearing them and seeing them that they're just like we are, and there's no rhyme or reason to who's getting what experiences, except for they're the ones that are open to it. I think that's really the bottom line, is if you're open to it, it'll happen. If you're not, it won't.
Yep. And I think we talked about that same thing, like in the paranormal world.
Yeah.
I can say with with my husband saying he's a skeptic, that he says he has to have the experience and have the evidence, like, to prove that it's really happening. But there's a whole thing is if you're closed off to it, why are they going to make the effort to communicate to you then? They'll be like, they don't believe, like, why bother? Like, I know I personally would be like, yeah, I'm not going to waste my time or energy, right? Because my energy is precious, especially on the other side. You might, they might not have as much energy as we do as physical beings, but it's kind of like, I'm not going to waste it on somebody who is like a naysayer.
I say that a lot when I talk to people about going to locations and saying, got to be a blank slate, because if you go in there to have like your 15 seconds of fame, they can read that off of you. They're not going to bother with you. Or they may give you what you want in a way that you don't want it. So, there's that angle too. And if you go in there for the genuine communication, you'll get more evidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I know we're running on time, and so where can everyone find you guys if they want to talk with you guys some about maybe doing it collaborations or getting you to come to sites?
Yeah. I mean, we're everywhere, but we're our website's Sinister Sisters Paranormal.com. We're on Facebook, same thing, Sinister Sisters Paranormal. Instagram, same. On TikTok now, Sinister Sisters Paranormal. Just type it in, you'll find us.
Yeah. So what is next for you, Sam? What do you have coming up?
This weekend we're going to do Martin Walton House. That's on our books. But I don't know what do we have for the rest of the year?
I think we're supposed to be doing like Blythewood.
Oh, that's right, like middle of
November.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I think that's probably it for this year. I mean,
yeah.
good
Lord, we've done a lot. So
yeah, I know. I started keeping a record, and I was like, oh my god, all the stuff that's been done. It's like you don't think about it throughout the year. You're like, yeah, it's been hit or miss, and then it's like you look and you're like, no, it isn't.
Yeah, it's been busy but good. So a lot of good experiences. I'm excited to see what next year brings after the holidays. So
exactly.
And Rachel, do you want to give a shout out to your show?
Oh yeah, the No. That's what it's called, the No podcast with Thom Reed. So I think most of the time I guess there's some on YouTube, but I think he's switched over to Rumble, so you can find it there. But yeah, we're always talking UFOs or paranormal. We're going to be getting a little bit more into cryptid stuff, and then he likes to add flavors of, like I said, he has got so many connections to music that he's got a bunch of rock and roll people. Sometimes we have TV and movie stars that pop in that we get to talk to. Like we had Warrington Gillette from who played Jason on one of the Friday the 13th. We've had Santiago Cerullo, who played on The Walking Dead. He's been on the show. We've talked to like Nick Pope from Ancient Aliens, and Mark D'Antonio, and there's quite a few others. Like we have Mike Barra has been on there, and then I know we've got upcoming some good guests. He's got what is their name? One of the actresses from Baywatch is coming on. So
that's really cool.
There you go.
Yeah. So we've had I think it was a couple of months ago, there was the lead singer that used to be part of Vixen, that rock and roll band. So yeah.
So you get a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. That's why you gotta know the No. Or be in the know.
Well, thank you guys for coming on, and thank you, Rachel, for coming back on. And
absolutely, thanks for
it's always fun to have you guys on, and hopefully we'll get you guys on again and more of your team comes on.
Yeah,
definitely. Thanks for having us.
We'll make it happen.
Definitely. And so thank you to Nancy and everyone who's watching. And I don't really know how to do a Halloween wrap up. I've not actually done it. So do one of you two have a good way to end a Halloween type episode?
Stay spooky, friends.
There you go. I'll take it. And with that, we'll say good night, everyone.
Good night.